Most sales teams underperform not because of bad leads or weak scripts, because they're not truly aligned, driven, or actually deeply bought into the culture. So in this video, I'll show you the exact indoctrination process that I've used to drive elite performance across dozens of sales teams, generating over $20 million in revenue and managing more than 300 sales reps in the last 2 years. Now, I've also spent 8 years in military reconnaissance, leading teams in complex and high pressure environments overseas, and really the same principles that build elite teams in the military, what drive performance in elite sales teams today. So let's break it down. All right, so this is how you indoctrinate your sales team for insane performance. So ultimately the objective is to light a fire under your sales reps so that they essentially sell like their life depends on it. And so that they're 150% bought into your offer, aligned with your values, aligned with your business, and then they close with laser-like focus. Because in any industry, whether it's a military or in business, laser-like focus is a single trait that all successful teams have. So obviously why this matters is without obsession, prospects will overwhelm the sales rep's frame. They'll have doubt. Obviously their frame will crumble, your numbers will tank, and then they'll lose deals. You'll lose deals to competitors that actually do have a great culture and are fired up. Obviously indoctrinated reps fight for your business like it's theirs. They'll close with blind conviction. And they'll even turn down, as I've said in the past, 3 times better offers just to stay with you because they have that identity. You'll build a robust team, a gold standard team, and they'll crush it month after month, year after year, and you'll stop seeing these slumps and you'll stop seeing these narratives that you see in sales teams like Q4 slump or Q1 slump, whatever it is. I forgot what the last one was, right? Why ethical indoctrination matters, right? Because reps need to be obsessed. If they're not obsessed, the doubt, again, will dominate the salespeople. They'll sound fake, they'll push products and not a solution, they'll fail to close. So an example here, if the prospect says, I'm not sure this program will work, a average sales rep who's not bought in will essentially crumble to that frame. Whereas an obsessed sales rep will just see straight through it. They'll know exactly why they're right with respect, and they'll be able to respond calmly and actually help the prospect see the value that they see. And it all comes back to their beliefs around their position, and they're gonna take the information they need, right, for their identity and how they should see their position based on how well you as a founder or sales manager actually teach them. Why this works? Ultimately, at the end of the day, after all the sexy tactics and everyone's different methodology, sales is always going to be about conviction. If reps don't see the offer as a transformation, like they don't actually see clients on a group call solving a problem that makes their day, it's very easy for them to just see it as an offer they don't really understand, and they won't see it as a solution. This is why it's critical, and I'll get to how we actually do that in just a bit. Essentially, if there's no buy-in, they'll slack off, they'll feel slimy, they'll tank your numbers. Whereas when they're obsessed, they'll fight for the business like it's their own. Again, turning down 2 times other offers just to stay with you, because ultimately they'll fight to keep that identity that they want. So the rules for indoctrination are they need to be obsessed. They have to love the offer and who they're selling to. It needs to be their lifestyle. They have to be real. They have to sound like themselves, not like a fake telemarketer. They need to be authentic. They need to be congruent, and they need to be certain. When they do this, they'll believe 150%. Everything they say will feel like pure truth. It will have that weight, and the prospects will feel that energy. So why we do this, at the end of the day, as I've said before, reps and people will always take the path of least resistance based on who they feel they are deep down. So if they feel they're inauthentic or low value, they'll slack off and struggle to actually show up, whether it's a setter, actually hitting the dials, a closer, objection handling, whatever it is. It's all going to come back to their self-image, and their self-image is affected by their job and the culture of the business. So you need to rewire their brain to see themselves as fanatics who live for this offer, so that way they'll sell with fire and laser-like focus. So this is how you indoctrinate your sales reps or your entire sales team in 3 steps. The first is you need to get them to see client fulfillment, right? This is something that I've seen having come into a bunch of businesses in the last 3 years, and essentially probably 10% of the time I see this already being done before I get there. Right? You need to make sure that sales reps actually watch fulfillment in action and join at least one client group meeting, or actually see the wins channel and see that filling up. They need to see coaches or the fulfillment team go off for 45 minutes on mindset or solving a technical problem with a prospect that'll make the client's day and just fulfill on what, God forbid, the client paid for, right? So show a testimonial to the salespeople of a client whose life flipped, especially one where it's obviously someone in your existing sales team that they closed, just to close that loop, that there's a cause and effect relationship between them closing the deal and someone actually getting an incredible amount of value. They'll think, holy shit, this is real. it actually works and it's changing people's lives. So this is how they get 150% bought in, seeing the transformation firsthand. And what this will do is, going back to our point before, this is how they'll feel when they're on their next sales calls. Step 2, you need to show them the magic, right? So what you need to do either every week or at least every month is sit down with your team, go through the ad sets, the testimonials, and all of the marketing collateral, whether that's a thank you page, the ad on the front end, or the VSL, and actually walk them through the process and the emotional pattern of what these ads are doing and what desire the ad or the marketing collateral is capturing. This will help the salespeople feel like they're actually above the whole process and they're not just an insect in one part of the process. They'll have a holistic understanding of actually what's going on. It'll help them sell better. At the end of the day, otherwise it's going to be a vacuum, right? If you don't show and you think you're going to kind of gaslight your salespeople into, you don't need to understand the ads or you don't need to understand fulfillment, they're going to find a way to find some kind of information about it, just like propaganda, right? You want to fill them with the right type of propaganda by showing them accurately what the ad is doing and what the fulfillment is doing. So you want to break it down. Again, explain to the salespeople what the prospect's deep desire actually is, right? So they want freedom, they want cash, whatever it is, right? And then typically, especially when you're using a unique mechanism, there's going to be some kind of narrative or a logical stream of acceptances that explains why the mechanism is superior. So for example, in this case, you're tapping into billion-dollar markets. That justifies why it's so easy to be able to make money in this industry. Isn't it already saturated? Well, there's already $60 billion a year being made in this industry. All we're doing is breaking off a piece and making 10K. So you want to be able to justify and explain the logical stream of acceptances that justify the unique mechanism of the offer to the salespeople and show them that in the VSL. So they're not just thinking, oh yeah, I know my business has a VSL, right? Actually explain to them why, because ultimately that is what it has taken for the prospect to show up to the sales call. So if the salesperson understands that deeply, they're going to be able to identify in the language of the prospect why they're there, and they're going to obviously be able to harness that in how they communicate with the prospect and the questions that they ask. And also, obviously, what you want them to be aware of the problems that are being essentially pulled out in the ad and in the marketing collateral in the VSL. This will help align the sales rep with the offer's core value, making them fanatics who actually believe in the offer's power. Ultimately, you're going to give them just one step closer to having a founder's mindset. And we all know that a founder finds it usually the easiest to sell, right? So if they can get 1 or 2% of that, it's going to massively increase their close rate. Real quick, and then we'll get back to the video. If you need help with either of these two things, either one, you want my personal help scaling your sales team done for you, or you just want one-on-one sales consulting to level up your sales management abilities so you can actually scale your sales team personally, go to the link in the description, click that link, check out the entire process, and then you can apply to speak with me personally. I'd love to help you with either of those two things. Now back to the video. And then step 3 is just to celebrate like crazy. When a rep goes to the end of the earth to close a prospect, because they know the program will actually change their life, you want to go nuts for that, because what that's going to do is keep everyone looking for that approval. And then everyone's obviously going to inhibit or copy that behavior, because ultimately humans want to fit into a tribe and inhabit its traits. So you say something like, you fought for that client, you actually changed their life, you're a legend, man, and do it in front of the team. The next thing you want to do is you need to remember, especially as a sales manager, is to wear both hats, right? You need to be able to be the father or the mother and then the drill sergeant. You need to be two people. At the end of the day, one who can call them on a Sunday night and talk through their issues affecting their sales, diving into their self-image and their past trauma. Just after the filming of this video, only yesterday, I spent probably about an hour in time that I could have had free with a sales rep, talking through some of their issues, holding them back from actually committing to the inputs required to achieve the results. And then I got a message this morning that they're well above KPI. So you ultimately want to make sure that you can be there for them offline, and you're not just a boss that's there to tell them their data's wrong or something like that, right? But ultimately, you need to be clinical with the data at the same time. And when they're out of KPI, they're coming up with limiting beliefs, you need to be able to call out that BS, because as I've said, probably 90% of the people in the online sales space are looking for people to call them out and not co-sign their BS, because they ultimately want to make money. They want to improve. So you need to be able to do both of those things. This is critical for a sales manager. Like I said, you need to call out their BS. Don't let them act incongruent, react like a baby, or tell stories, right, that aren't concrete for not closing, because they're begging for someone to see through it. If they sound slimy, if they say, oh, well, the prospect wasn't ready because of X, Y, Z, maybe, but they need to, the type of person that does want to get that deal done and help that prospect would come up with ways at the end of that sentence that they're going to actually try and fix that deal and try and get it done. That's why if they finish with a problem, you want to say you see right through it. If they're looking for a solution and they're asking you, it's a sign of someone that wants to improve and is obviously taking accountability, and that's great. As I've said, a lot of people in this industry lack a strong father figure, someone to call them out for their BS. but ultimately someone they know cares at the end of the day. So a lot of salespeople, they know what to say on the sales call, but they don't really know what to do or how it shapes their future. So whether it's like the non-income generating activities that improve the income generating activities, like their lifestyle, or the hustle muscle in the CRM, all of these things you typically see underworked on far compared to the average sales rep has every word track under the sun. So you want to make sure that you're actually improving them as people. Ultimately, a sales manager is someone that is incredibly good at analysis of sales data, and ultimately is very good at being a coach. And not just a sales coach, you got to give them word tracks, a life coach as well. So you need to make sure you do that, and that's how you increase your retention massively. You want to make sure you align the team on the goals, the North Star, and leadership. So ensure your team monitors tangible progress against tangible goals. That's why you need to have projections and quantify everything. This will make it very hard for your salespeople to squirm out of doing the hard work required. You need to tie every data point, the close rate, the pickup rate, or whatever it is, to their North Star, to the mission of the business, and to their objectives, which you should obviously be regularly keeping in touch with them and doing calls to make sure that they have tangible goals, because ultimately the success lives in objectivity. So the North Star will dictate the culture. Your mission, your vision, your values, your big why is ultimately going to dictate that. It'll show how their work achieves the qualitative goals. The daily actions, the metrics ladder, all the way up to the North Star, and it keeps the team focused. Now, founder and a sales manager that's on fire, it will ultimately give the team a 10x lift, because they're going to model your behavior, but it's going to set the culture on fire. Ultimately, why we do this, reps are obsessed with the offer. They'll close like fanatics. They'd rather die than let you down. The leadership will turn them into a squad that actually fights for the mission. And at the end of the day, if the reps don't believe the offer is legit 100%, they'll sound like crap. They'll lose deals. They'll come up with reasons why they can't succeed. And you're just going to have a massive headache.